Okay, so should we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
Tenzin, you start.
Okay. A very warm afternoon to all. We have all gathered together for the national webinar on the topic Philosophy of Religion, a Perspective. So let's move the program forward. I invite Ms. Shivani, my colleague, for the welcome note. Over to you, Shivani.
Thank you, Stanjay. A very warm good afternoon to one and all. Special greetings to Honorable Principal of our college, Shyama Mukherji College for Women, Dr. Sadhna Sharma. Also present with us in this virtual space is the Honorable HOD, Department of Philosophy, Dr. Hansi Bilch. I extend my warm welcome to our esteemed speaker of today's webinar, Dr. Shivani Sharma and Dr. Namita Nimbalkar ma'am. I also extend my welcome to all other faculty members of the Department of Philosophy, Shyama Mukherji College for Women, and all the participants joining us from various universities of India. The topic of today's webinar is the philosophy of religion, a perspective. Philosophy of religion is rational thought about religious issue and concern without a presumption of the existence of a deity or reliance on acts of faith. It is also the philosophical study of meaning and nature of religion. It includes the analysis of religious concept, belief, term, arguments, and practices of religious adherents. It is very important to note that the philosophy of religion differ from religious philosophy in that it seeks to discuss questions regarding the nature of religion as a whole. Rather than examining the problems brought forth by a particular belief system, it can be carried out dispassionately by those who identify as believers or non-believers. Philosopher William L. Rowe characterized the philosophy of religion as the critical examination of basic religious belief and concept. Philosophy of religion covers alternative beliefs about God or gods, the varieties of religious experience, the interplay between science and religion, the nature and scope of good and evil, and religious treatment of birth, history, and death. The field also includes the ethical implication of religious commitments, the relation between faith, reason, experience, and traditional concept of miraculous, the sacred revelation, mysticism, power, and salvation. We might observe that philosophy of religion is a flourishing field beyond those specific areas described above. There are also a number of important emerging approaches, renewed interest in philosophy of religion. Now, without much delay, I take this opportunity to introduce our first speaker of the webinar, Dr. Shivani Sharma. Ma'am is an eminent philosopher. She is an associate professor, Department of Philosophy, Punjab University, Chandigarh. She has also taught at Punjabi University for 6 years and has a long teaching experience. Her area of specialization is Indian philosophy and aesthetics. Her academics achievement is splendid. She is a gold medalist and was an ICPR fellow. Shivani ma'am has incredible administrative experience in the vast professional sphere. She has been supervised many PhD and MPhil students in her academic life. Ma'am has always been a very active in her academics. She has published numerous articles in various national and international journals and presented 68 papers in conferences, seminars, and workshops. She has reviewed numerous philosophical books and articles. She has also served as a subject expert in Himachal Public Service Commission and attended various confidential workshops under central and state organizations such as CBSE, UGC, CBSE, and Madhya Pradesh Public Service Commission. She has been a resource person at many refresher courses. At present, she is chairperson of the Department of Philosophy, Punjab University, Chandigarh. During the chairpersonship, she has organized many successful events. Today, we are sorry. Today, we are feeling very blessed to have you, ma'am. Thank you once again for accepting our invitation. Over to you, Shivani, ma'am.
Thank you, Shivani, for so kind words. I'm overwhelmed to hear this from another Shivani. So we share our name.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So now let me officially uh, extend my gratitude and uh, thanks to the organizers of Shama Prasad Mukherji College for Women, the principal ma'am Sadhna Sharma ji, the teacher in charge Hansi ji, and student convener Shivani Barnawal, and my dear Dr. Chetna Gupta for thinking of me, for having me here. I'm really thankful to her personally. Uh, when Chetna informed me that she wants me to speak on, though you have already, Shivani has already mentioned that my specialization is Indian philosophy and aesthetics per se, but when Chetna informed me that she would like me to speak on philosophy of religion, so I was in a perplexed situation because it is not my specialization as such. But as a student of philosophy, we all have this tendency to take some form of academic challenges now and then. And hence, I thought that it'll be enriching for me to go through the and revise what I've learned in my MA classes, and not only revise, to add up a bit. And with this, I accepted this offer, and I'm very, very grateful to one and all who are on the organizing committee. Uh, Before I start, I have few as understood in Indian perspective or from Indian traditional point of view. Why? Because I think, and my friends on the board, they also uh, know the reasons for it, that I do believe that in order to be a religion, there are certain conditions, there are certain parameters that a particular tradition must, follow, or particular tradition must fulfill those parameters and conditions. And Indian philosophy seems to fail on those parameters. And what are those parameters? What comes to my mind is that uh, when we talk of religion, primarily we talk of Abrahamic religions. And those Abrahamic religions are none other than the three: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. When we try to see the common elements among these three traditions, religious traditions, we find that there is one book, one prophet, and one God. The concept of one God, one prophet, and one book. This holds together all these Abrahamic religions. But so far, Indian, if we call them, I don't wish to say that dharma is religion, but if we look into the Indian traditional paradigm with regard to religion, we actually fail to find these one book, one prophet, one God as such. Why? Because we do not have one book. We have Veda, and they are also four in number. We don't have one author. We do not. We have a class of rishis who jotted down the Veda. It was revealed in a way that it is a Parushya. Now, people from non-theistic traditions would say that atheism, or just a second, give me a minute. There is some. Sorry. There is a construction going on at the back of the house, and that was causing some distraction. So, if we see this, the concept of four books, Apaurusha. Yeah, I was talking about Apaurusha. So, Apaurusha could be interpreted as, if God has written, those who are from atheistic backgrounds, they would say it could be God. But there are other people from more philosophical background, they would say that it doesn't mention. interesting point of Sanskrit language is that when you add up uh, that is ananya. Now we have terms like, the Nanj Samas, those who are familiar with a little bit of Sanskrit, so they would understand. Aparushya means na paurushya, जिसको पुरुष ने तो नहीं लिखा कम से कम. अब पुरुष ने नहीं लिखा, अगर हम ऋषियों पर जाएंगे तो हमारी वो समस्या आएगी कि ऋषि क्या है, क्या ऋषि पुरुष नहीं है. But there is no one particular writer. There is the scriptures or the four Vedas are not written by a particular person as such. That is another criteria which fails Indian tradition or Indian culture to be ranked as a religion. And thirdly, there is no one God. And God comes much later when we have Sagun Brahma. So Brahma is not God at all. And there are reasons which will take another, I would say, deliberation of an hour or so, which will help us to understand why Brahma is not God. And when I wish to explore this dimension, I have in front of me Nasadiya Sukta. And Nasadiya Sukta, there are two major in Indian philosophy, I would say. There are two major texts which actually talk about this this concept which we are now at present trying to deal with, the concept of God. But God is not there at all, even in Nasadiya Sukt or in Purusha Sukt. But Nasadiya Sukt का आपको मैं सिर्फ एक पहला मंत्र इसलिए शेयर करना चाहती हूँ, so that the stage is set for the students and for me also to explore this philosophy of religion from a Western perspective, and it will be easier for me to show the differences that will keep coming on during the presentation. It is very interesting, and I feel that as a student and teacher of philosophy, I consider it to be our moral duty to let our students understand, to let our fraternity know this, that while you read texts, the interpretation, the translation, the nuances that the words, the mantras carry are very sensitive, and hence we must understand, we must take the images of the word as the real meaning of the word and not meaning of the word. What I mean by saying this, my submission is that each word, as Wittgenstein also would say, that picture theory, words have a referent in images. Words, entire Veda, entire Rig Veda especially, it is imagery. It is not more about the meaning. When you're reading or teaching Vedas, we must understand that every word has an image attached to it, and we must be very, very careful and honest in sharing, in transmitting, in communicating that image, and not only the meaning. Meaning could be literal at times, but being literal doesn't serve much of a purpose, what I feel is. And now I'll come to the mantra directly. आप ध्यान से देखिए इसमें वो क्या बात कर रहा है. वो कह रहा है, and many of our generation, those who have seen Jawaharlal Nehru's Discovery of India, उसका पहला जो मंत्र था वही मंत्र मैं यहाँ पे पढ़ रही हूँ. न असत आसीत नो इति सत आसीत तदानीम. उस समय पर, तदानीम, उस समय पर न असत था. असत का मतलब झूठ नहीं है, ना कुछ नहीं था ना कुछ था. Now it might sound very contradictory to linguistic philosophers, to analytical philosophers, but it is an expression. I submitted earlier that we need to catch up the image of the situation, image that has been portrayed by the rishis. So, na asat asit no iti sat asit tadanim. न आसीत रजह नो इति व्योम परह यत. ना ही कोई अंतरिक्ष था, ना ही कोई व्योम आकाश था. किम आ वरी वरिति कुह कस्य शर्मन, तो फिर कौन सी चीज थी जो प्रोटेक्शन दे रही थी? किस चीज ने ढका हुआ था पूरे ब्रह्मांड को? अंभः, जल था। अब हम जब हम टेक्स्ट बुक्स में जाते हैं तो व्हाट वी फाइंड इज, लोग इसको प्रलय से प्रलय को इसमें इम्प्लाई करके दिखाते हैं। भाई यहाँ पर कहीं प्रलय शब्द नहीं है, केवल जल था। जैसे ही आप प्रलय कहते हैं तो आपके माइंड में इमेज बदल जाती है कि जैसे शायद वहां पर कोई जैसे सुनामी जैसी स्थिति हो सकती है या कोई और स्थिति हो सकती है, बट द ऋषि इज सेइंग ओनली अंभः, जल था। अब इसी इमेज को पकड़ के हमें रखने की जरूरत है, रादर देन गोइंग इनटू द extrapolations of the meanings. केवल जल था, और कैसा जल था? गहनम, गभीरम। अब इससे आप शांत भी कह सकते हैं, गंभीर जैसे बोल रहे हैं तो शांत भी कहा जा सकता है, लेकिन शब्द यही है, गहन था और गंभीर, बहुत डीप था और गंभीर था। और इसी से जुड़ा हुआ न मृत्यु आसीत अमृतम न तरही, ना मृत्यु थी ना ही कोई अमृत था। अमृत माने लाइफ, मृत्यु माने डेथ। न रात्रि और ना ही दिन, न रात न दिन, कोई भी नहीं था। इसके बीच में कोई भेद, बुद्धि का कोई ज्ञान का भेद ही नहीं था। आनीत अवातम स्वधया तत् एकम, केवल वो एक एलिमेंट, एक शब्द है, एलिमेंट मैं अपनी तरफ से लगा रही हूं क्योंकि मेरी भाषा की कुछ एक मानना चाहिए कि कुछ सीमा है। तो केवल वह एक जो बिना वात के, अवातम, अवात वो क्या कर रहा था? सांस ले रहा था। That one principle alone in itself was breathing. अब यहां पर कहीं ब्रह्म शब्द नहीं आया है, कहीं पे गॉड शब्द नहीं है, कहीं पे कोई देवता नहीं है। तो यहां से हमारे मन में ये प्रश्न उठना चाहिए कि क्या भारतीय दर्शन में, क्या भारतीय परंपरा में गॉड का संदर्भ या रिलीजन का जो एक फंडामेंटल आधार है, दैट इज द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ गॉड, क्या इसके बिना भी सोचा जा सकता है? सो वेद में ये उपलब्ध है, वेदों में, सूक्तों में ये कहीं ना कहीं हम लोगों को ये उपलब्ध है कि एक प्रिंसिपल था बस, वो अपने मतलब, और देखिए कितनी कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी इमेजेस आ रही हैं जब हम इसकी बात करते हैं, और इसके अलावा कुछ नहीं था। अब इसके आगे ये बहुत लंबा हो जाएगा, मैं फिलोसफी ऑफ रिलीजन पे बोलने के लिए मैंने सोचा हुआ है, बट माय सबमिशन इज दैट थ्रू दिस चैनल, थ्रू दिस प्लेटफॉर्म, आई मस्ट address the students and so that they know how to read a text, how to understand why philosophy in India cannot be ranked as religious philosophy. Why? Because it is purely, तभी आप लोगों को बताया भी गया होगा कि उपनिषद जो है वो इंटेलेक्चुअल इनसाइट्स की बात करते हैं, तो उस वजह से ये एक प्योर इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसिप्लिन है, और हमें, मुझे लगता है ये प्रयास जारी रखना चाहिए कि हम जब टेक्स्ट को पढ़ें तो पूरी संजीदगी और ऑनेस्टी के साथ हम उसको समझें भी। Now, as Shivani was introducing that the philosophy of religion has it is nothing but an appraisal by the students of philosophy with regard to the meaning and nature of religion. Not only these nature and meaning of religion, but also it wishes to address the concepts, the theories, the doctrines, the practices, religious practices, followers of the followers, and the range of people, those who engage in it. Generally, एक चीज को हम यहाँ पर समझ लें कि थीइज्म जो है अभी तक रिलीजन में वही चल रहा था। थीइस्टिक मीन्स those who can theism was the only discipline, I won't say discipline, it is one of the shades which was handling the philosophy of religion, but gradually as awareness increased among academia, people accepted that there could be other versions of religions too, whereby it could be a non-theistic religion like Hinduism, like Buddhism, like Taoism. There is no God, but even then the state of being. See, the another interesting thing is that non-theistic schools or non-theistic traditions are represent more of a state of being than what God is. So, hence, there is a basic difference between theism and non-theism, which rests upon this difference that one reflects state of being and one reflects that there is an entity which is God. It doesn't make superior, it doesn't make inferior, nothing, but it is just a reporting that I can give. So, when I looked upon the literature of philosophy of religion, I could visualize that it is primarily divided into few major areas, whereby it is the religious language, religious belief. How do we handle it? What is religious language? Is it mystic? Is it couched in emotions? And hence, our logical positivists, they would do away with such expressions. Not only this, then concept of God, religious diversity, existence, proofs for existence and non-existence of God. This is one common. Not only this, problem of evil and suffering. And lastly, miracles. Miracles also come up as one of the domains of religion. And I would say that Hume, when he quotes Epicurus, he submits that it is a violation of the natural law, and thus miracles should not be admitted at all. Why? Because it goes out of the way. It is unnatural. And hence there are certain arguments. And my attempt will be to just touch upon each of these aspects of philosophy of religion one by one. Coming to the first, philosophy of religion handles the problem of religious language and religious belief. Now, religion, the philosophical language is different, as we know that contemporary and analytical tradition, they have been holding on to this fact that until it is a mathematical tautology or expression which is analytical in nature, it does not serve purpose. So if we say that God is kind, God is loving, this won't serve any purpose. Why? Because it doesn't explain anything. Why it doesn't explain anything? Because it cannot be verified. So this verification principle has been very strong in analytical philosophy. But in the later 20th century, somehow it was realized that this is it is like becoming self-refuting. It is not serving any purpose because there are matters which cannot be subject to verification. So theory of verification had its own limitations, to which positivists were aware of, and there was a regression in such attempts whereby only you would say only such form of logical deliberations were taken into consideration. There was if I may say, there was a fall. There was a fall in such tendencies, and of course, the kind of paradigm was given by Wittgenstein and form of naturalism given by Quine served its purpose, helped to realize the limitations of logical positivism, but not logical positivism, analytical philosophy. But this had its own response. For example, realism and non-realism. Realism came as, let's say, as a wave whereby people actually believed that there are entities like God. There are entities which have referent outside. So they actually believed in the existence of, and how, I mean, if you use the word, if you can relate it to, if you relate it to Descartes' argument, that a priori argument, that the word will have a referent. but it is not necessary. But this is a realistic point of view that we find in the literature of philosophy of religion, that when I say God, God has a referent and it must be there. And now there you need to define where. And but non-realist tradition is another tradition which believes that religious claims are not about realities that transcend human language, concepts, and social forms. Rather, religion is a social construct. It is a human construct, and human behavior, religious language refers to human behavior and experience. So somehow, in speaking of God or other religious terms or concepts, in speaking of God or other religious terms or concepts, their meaning have more to do with their use than with their denotation. It is more like, again, Wittgenstein's language game. So when we talk of God or any other religious concept, their meanings are embedded in the use by the society or the members of the society. So, and it hardly matters if it doesn't denote anything. So the language games of religions reflect the practices and forms of life of the various religious adherents. Non-realists also noted the alleged failure of realism of providing evidence. Realists believe that when I say the word God, when I say the word God, it must exist outside. But non-realists pointed out that no, it is a failure. Why? Because there is no evidence in this. You cannot provide any evidence to establish it. And not only this, they also believed that there's a group of reformed epistemologists who believe that non-evidentialists to assert that evidence is needed, it is not necessary. Why? Because religion is a matter of faith and trust, and hence it is not essential to establish evidence or evidentialism to be one of the major foundations of philosophy of religion. So practically, there is a debate between realists and non-realists, but non-realists have, I would say, an upper hand in establishing that yes, there are cases when you actually cannot prove on the basis that the word has a referent outside. And not only this, language of religion also shows that there is religious diversity. Now, this religious diversity can be understood in, again, two forms, that there is religious pluralism, or there is religious exclusivism, or there is religious relativism. So there is a group of people who would say that we accept that my religion is relative to yours. I hold up a view which is relatively correct, and there are other religion or religious traditions which can also be correct in their own opinion. And pluralism is, again, whereby you actually, the aim is not to deny or minimize the doctrinal conflicts and to maintain that doctrine itself is not important as far it is religious experience is there. So pluralism focuses on the religious experience more than minimizing or diluting the doctrinal aspect of the religion. It is believed that yes, certainly, every religion is nothing but an authentic response to a religious experience or to a religious entity. And John Hick, as we find, John Hick is the ardent follower of religious pluralism. Rather, he uses Kant's categories of phenomena and noumena to use when he has to propound his own view. He uses Kant's concept of noumena and phenomena when he says that we do not know which view is ultimately correct. since we do not have God's eye perspective by which to make such an assessment. And rather, John Hick uses the parable from Jainism, whereby he says that God is like that elephant, and religious traditions are like more like blind men who are touching different parts of the elephant and trying to depict it in their own particular way. So pluralism also has its own advantages over other streams or other interpretations of religion. But one objection that other thinkers that focus on John Hick is that pluralism does not allow us to hold a particular horn or hold on to a particular theory, and hence everything is plural, and you are not denying either one or another, which will not actually say which is better and which is not. But religious exclusivism would for sure establish that anything which contradicts to my set of attributes of God, which I have been given with in my own tradition. Now that is not acceptable. Why? Because I'm a follower of religious exclusivism. I believe that my religion is exclusive, and the values and the attributes of God or religious terms, they all have, anything which contradicts it, that particular religious sect is not correct. That is what we get it from religious exclusivism and religious pluralism and religious relativism. Another main domain of philosophy of religion is concept of God. As we all know, when it comes to concept of God, we generally have this idea of omnipotent, God as being omnipotent, omniscient. These are the fundamental attributes of God that we ascribe to. And but as I just said in the beginning, that there are non-theistic traditions also, which would refer to God, not God, but to ultimate reality as a state of being. Now there is a difference, but we are trying to handle the issue of God, and not God not in terms of state of being. So when we fall onto this proving existence of God and non-existence of God proofs and arguments, so we fall back upon the tradition of the West, whereby we find ontological arguments and cosmological arguments and teleological arguments, which were given by, of course, Saint Anselm, Descartes, and then we do find that Kant has his own way to condemn and criticize Anselm as well as Descartes. And I'll be just very shortly putting those arguments in front of you, and it is open for scrutiny and debate and discussion. First of all, as I just said in the beginning, that it is like an a priori argument. Even Descartes holds on to this, as well as Anselm also. So the first argument is why it is a priori, because it is based on innate knowledge. Had we not known any idea of had we not have any idea of God, how would we know that there is some entity like God? So this actually proves that the word God means an existent who is God. So this is one of the arguments, the first argument by Anselm. And second argument is that a reality or an entity than which we cannot conceive of anything which is high, which could be higher than that. So one more argument that is given by Anselm is that अगर आप किसी चीज से बड़ा कुछ सोच सकते हैं, तो इसका मतलब वो बड़ी चीज जो है वो गॉड है. So anything which we cannot conceive of being the highest, that cannot be God. So in order to be God, one must one must perceive or conceive that entity to be the highest. And Anselm also submits that everyone has a definition of God, even atheists. They also have a definition, maybe in a negative way, but there is a definition of God. And therefore, God exists in mind. And just as dragon does not have a referent outside, but the word proves that yes, there is an entity, but it is just in order to explain the concept of God that Anselm uses. And not only this, God must exist in reality too. But why? Because he is that than which nothing greater can be conceived of. And Anselm's second argument is also that there must be more to God. Otherwise, if we say that he exists, it is just like saying that I exist, you exist, we all exist. So, what is extra to that God's existence? That is also one of the concerns, that he is not enjoying human existence like us. We are contingent beings, but God cannot be contingent being. And hence, there we have reason to believe in the existence of God, that yes, he is a necessary thing. He is a necessary thing in the sense that he does not fade away. He doesn't wane. He doesn't vanish like contingent beings. And Descartes, when we see Descartes' argument, God is supremely perfect being. That's what we have on record. And existence is a predicate of a perfect being. Now, Kant pulls up Descartes on this issue, that existence doesn't add anything to the conceptual knowledge. When we say that X exists, now this existence is not a predicate of X. To be X, you have to first exist, and then you can have different predicates. And hence, Kant opposes Descartes as well as Anselm. And he also gives an example that if we do not, if we say that if we dilute three sides of a triangle, the triangle is lost. And similar is the case with the concept of God. If you do not have any predicates of God, or if you cannot predict some attributes to God, then the concept of God will vanish. Existence cannot be the predicate of God as such. And hence, existence is not a predicate for Descartes. And now the cosmological argument. We all understand that this has its grounding in the empirical observations, that we see the world around, and hence we see the universe around, and hence we come to conclusion. Not only this, there are metaphysical grounds also to deduce that yes, God is existing. Why? Because there are not only the physical, the mundane, the phenomenal world is around, but there is a transcendental world too. And hence the metaphysical claim for existence of God is also accepted by the tradition. And Thomas Aquinas is one who would share his views on contingent things, that why cosmological argument should be given. He says that since we are contingent things, there has to be a necessary thing, and why we can see the contingent things as ostensible. We can see things empirically, and hence those empirical things, they fade away, and there must be, it is just like I would relate it to Sankhya, Purushas and Prakriti, that Purusha is there as a supreme being, not supreme being, as a coexistent being, and Prakriti is creating for Purusha, and hence there is a necessity, there is a necessary thing which does not fade away, that is Purusha, and there is Prakriti who is producing objects, and that production leads to destruction also, destruction of things, but not of Prakriti. And there is another argument, cosmological argument by Leibniz, which reflects on sufficient reason, that everything which is existing must have a sufficient reason to it. and universe must lie in some transcendent reality, which could be God, since the universe does not have its own nature, the necessity of existence, and God does. So, with this, we come now to the teleological arguments, and we all understand that telos is the purpose, or what is the purpose of creating. We see that this universe has a particular purpose, and not only, and we also see a design in this cosmic universe. So, having seen these designs, we also assume that there must be a designer too. And not only a designer, an intelligent designer. So we find that we have William Paley, who offers in natural theology, who offers an argument, since we infer a designer of an artifact such as watch, given its evident purpose, order, structure, and complexity, so too we should infer a grand designer of the works of nature, since they are even greater in terms of their evident purpose, order, and complexity. The point that I wish to make here is that the design in the universe, the design in the cosmos, has its own authenticity to lead us to infer that yes, there is a designer. And this has been Robin Collins is another thinker who establishes that had there been certain changes in the in life, prohibiting elements. For example, he says, I would like to read it to you. If the strong nuclear force that binds proton neutrons in atom had been either stronger or weaker by 5%, life would be impossible. अगर किसी भी तरह की कॉम्बिनेशन में कोई फर्क होता तो हम यहाँ पर एग्जिस्ट नहीं कर रहे होते. तो ये किसने किया है कि बिल्कुल कंडीशंस उसी तरह की बनी है जहां पर हम लिविंग कंडीशंस जिनको हम कह सकते हैं, लाइफ प्रमोटिंग कंडीशंस हम जिनको कह सकते हैं. दूसरा, इफ न्यूट्रॉन वर नॉट रफली 1.001 times the mass of protons, all protons would have decayed. Robin Collins is trying to establish that there are certain scientific facts which indicate towards that yes, this life promoting conditions are have a particular purpose, have a particular design, and hence there is a designer. But there are others who would say that life promoting elements exist only on this planet Earth. There are other planets whereby there is a life prohibiting conditions. There is no life. Jupiter, Mars, and Mars I can't say because there is a research going on Mars. So there are universes in the universe. So we actually cannot claim that if this life, on the basis of Robin Collins' argument, that if actually the living conditions that we have here now and here on planet Earth will have similar parallel life expectancy on other planets too, and this leads us to infer that there is a designer, namely God. And of course, we understand that there is a challenge of science which has been time immemorial. Religion or religious claims have been facing. There was earlier a concept that sun is rotating, and now after Galileo, it has completely changed. So biblical statements and biblical information has been, when it comes to rectification of things, there was correction with regard to sun, the movement of the sun or the movement of the earth. So religion is having a tough time, no doubt. And in order to just sum it with, because I understand that time is catching up. Just to end up with the problem of evil, I would say that problem of evil is another very interesting domain of philosophy of religion, whereby I in the earlier section mentioned that when it comes to Hume is a skeptic, and he also says that when he quotes Epicurus, I would like to read the statement: "Is God willing to prevent evil but not able?" Now, this is the paradox. Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is impotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Whence then is evil? अगर वो उसमें एक क्षमता है, ओमनीपोटेंट है, कि वो इविल को बचा सकता है, तो फिर वो ऐसा करता क्यों नहीं है? और अगर वो करता नहीं है तो इसका मतलब उसके वश में ये चीज नहीं है और वो इम्पोर्टेंट है। या फिर ऐसा है कि उसमें क्षमता है लेकिन वो जानकर नहीं करता, तो इसका मतलब है कि वो मैलोविलेंट है, उसमें कुछ गड़बड़ है, कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ गॉड में ही कुछ गड़बड़ है। एंड अगर उसमें दोनों ही है, उसमें क्षमता भी है और उसमें विलिंगनेस भी है, तो फिर ये इविल है क्यों? व्हाई डज दिस इविल एग्जिस्ट एट ऑल? So there are logical incompatibilities that we find. I think I'll just skip it. And this is very interesting, although, that there are evidential problems, that each evidence of evil happening in the universe inductively leads us to conclude that, yes, there is evil and God is absent. God does not exist. Why? Because there is evil. Evil exists, hence God does not exist. There is inductive list, complete inductive argument can be framed. Now that is an evidential problem, but there is a logical problem also, and theodicy also. I think I'll be just switching over to the last part. And also karma, I can't wind up without referring to the theory of karma and reincarnation. When we address to especially the problem of suffering, not evil as such, but to the problem of suffering, many of Indian minds, they would believe that certainly karma is, since we have rebirths, and rebirth will always yield a past, yield results from the past, and hence the jeev that transmigrates will carry his or her own results too. But I'm not sure if this can be handled from the Western viewpoint, because the time is not cyclical in the West. It is just a linear, that you were born here and you die here, and that's the end of the story. But so far, Indian context is concerned, Buddhist context is concerned, we certainly have a cyclical theory whereby we carry our results, we reap our fruits of actions. So, and finally, the miracle point that I wished to discuss, that yes, I'll just submit it again by saying that a miracle is something, the ability of God to, which has been taken to be an ability of God to make things happen in a way which otherwise were not possible. But this is outrightly rejected by Hume and many others, who would say that it is an out of the order, and hence it is a violation and must not be considered as miracle, must not be considered as religious at all, and it should not be taken as a proof for existence of God at all. With these words, I thank again the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my views on philosophy and philosophy of religion and its concerns and issues. I am not sure that how philosophy of religion would serve purpose so far Abrahamic religions are concerned. But as a student of Indian philosophy, I do feel that many of the issues are actually not issues. If we look at from the Indian perspective, I could be exclusive, I could be following religious exclusivism, but I'm not, because I say this with complete responsibility and conviction that there are sometimes issues which are actually non-issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shivani ma'am, for your enlightening speech. Now we have some questions. Okay. So we have one question from Mishra. She's asking, kindly make a statement on Nietzsche's statement, God is dead.
Tintin, I also want to ask something.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Pooja, ma'am, you can.
Do I?
Yes, ma'am, you can go first, ma'am.
Okay. First of all, very thank you, Shivani ma'am. It's really a thought-provoking ideas. But I want to ask one question. Being a researcher or a student of Indian philosophy, when you were saying that you have mentioned in your paper that ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. When we talk about this Indian philosophy, when you are talking about Indian, according to the perspective of Indian philosophy, ekam sat and vipra bahuda vadanti, the ultimate reality is one. And when ultimate reality is one, and it has not been mentioned in any kind of orthodox schools, the concept of God and the concept of religion. So what do you think? We have to obey the religious rituals or not?
Well, if you read Purni Mansa,
Yeah.
Purni Mansa is one school which will unconditionally, which would say that there is no God. It is only your karma that will free you or that will bind you. So I would say, if rituals is concerned, every religion has a ritual, or a pattern of rituals to be followed. But personally, I would say that rituals have to be at a point of time. We have to do away with sometimes with rituals too. Why? Because knowledge is a greater virtue. And why knowledge is a greater virtue? Because it transforms. It helps you to transform yourself in many ways. And hence, reality, ultimate reality, when it comes to ultimate reality, I would say that rituals is just, maybe it is just a phase. Maybe it is just one of the steps to be closer to reality. But as a discipline, ritual as a discipline is another thing. If you have a ritualistic lifestyle, which is more of a disciplined form, then I think one can think over it. It might give an initial impetus to have not a religious life, but again a disciplined life. So disciplined life is always a virtue, and if we are following some form of rituals, I would say finally it won't help, but yes, initially it might. I would not deny it.
Okay, and we have few more questions. So we have one more question from Suchitra Mishra. She's asking to make a comment on the Nietzsche statement, God is dead.
Just a second. I have a lot of disturbance going on at the back. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. What was the question? Can I have the question again?
So she's asking, Suchitra Mishra, she's asking to make a statement on Nietzsche's statement, God is dead.
So, God is dead. She wants from me to know.
Yes. She wants you to make a statement on it.
First of all, Suchitra, I would say that it is in a particular context that Nietzsche says and expresses his concern. Uh, but so far, you talk of Indian context, I would say that there is no God, and there is no God in the sense of Nirgun Brahma, but Sagun Brahma, of course, if we treat it as God, I wouldn't say that even if that God is dead, the image of God is known by the virtues of that particular God. So Christianity has its own problem. And why? Because the existential philosophy has a lot to contribute there. But so far, Indian context is concerned, I wouldn't say that this applies to Indian context at all, because we have 33 crores of deities, and when it comes to God, Vishnu, Mahesh, and Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, the Trinity, and they are all sagun forms of reality. But I mean, the question doesn't arise in the Indian context at all. So I would rather like to submit that you should reflect on the statement that why God is dead. And Nietzsche has his own reasons to say that. But when it comes to us, how do we treat it? How do we handle it? How we rate it? How we understand it? I would say that to Indian context, it won't apply.
Thank you, ma'am. And we have one more question from Shivani. So she's asking, do religious experience prove that there is a God? And also, what makes religious so important to people?
Mm-hmm. See, experience cannot be denied. If we understand Mimamsa philosophy in and through, Mimamsa philosophy says that we all are here students of philosophy, and I hope that we understand Swatah Pramanyavad, that every experience is primarily Swatah Siddh, that is, it is valid. It is only later on that we prove it to be invalid. So every experience, be that, or even if it is a psychotic experience, or even if it is schizophrenic experience, or it's a dream experience, it is in itself a valid experience. I'm not saying true, I'm saying it is a valid experience. So be it a religious experience in the context of Western philosophy of religion, I would say, yes, we have to have this much of heart and acceptability levels, that we give space to religious or experiences in religion, maybe mystic, maybe mystical in nature. But yes, why it is important? Because we all carry inquisitive minds. We all wish to know as about the origin of the human existence. We cannot keep adding. I missed that point in cosmological argument, that we cannot keep adding on, कि add infinite नहीं हम कर सकते हैं, कि कहाँ से आए हैं हम, ये हमारा जानने का अधिकार हमेशा बना रहेगा और रुचि भी बनी रहेगी. अधिकार की तो बात नहीं है इसमें, हमारा ह्यूमन बीइंग का ये एक मेजर इंटरेस्ट है इन ऑर्डर टू नो वंस रूट्स, कि हमारी एग्जिस्टेंस है कहाँ से, हम कहाँ से पैदा हो रहे हैं. पैदा होना का मतलब ओरिजिन क्या है, ह्यूमैनिटी का ओरिजिन क्या है. तो बहुत से लोग वो गॉड में देखने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, और बहुत से लोग नहीं भी देखने की कोशिश कर रहे. प्रोबेबली दे आर लुकिंग फॉर सम काइंड ऑफ अ बीइंग, होने में. तो वो होने की भी कई भाव हो सकते हैं. यही मैं कह सकती हूँ इस पे.
Sorry, I was disconnected. I have one more question, Shivani ma'am.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Stanjin, there is one more question from Sashi Ranjan.
Yes, ma'am. Can I take that question first, ma'am, Pooja ma'am, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure.
So there's one more question from Sashi Ranjan. So she's asking, you're deliberated upon interesting aspect of the text in Indian context being written by not a stand-alone writer and how the completion of the text happened over a long period of time. So my query is, if such be the case, then text must in fact be very subjective in nature, and therefore, when and how did the paradigm shift occur when people started submitting those texts as absolute medium of instruction and moral and social guide, thereby rendering it an objective nature? So that is.
Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful question. First of all, let me submit that Vedas do not instruct anything. Vedas are reportive. They are descriptive of the experiences which are subjective in nature. I accept it. They are purely subjective experiences, but not carrying any instructions as such. They are not directions until unless it comes to smritis. Now, smritis are not Vedas. They are neither part of the Vedas. So, probably there is a merger of questions in your question. There are two different paradigms that you are mingling up in order to ask the question. So I would request you to reframe this question. I agree on this part that yes, it is a subjective experience, yet it is not a directive principle. It is only reporting the inner experiences that those rishis or the clan of rishis must have gone through.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your enlightening talk. Now we have with us our second. Sorry, Pooja, ma'am.
Yes, I want to ask one question if you allow me, Tenzin.
Ma'am, we have very limited time, so can you keep it at the end, ma'am? You can ask at the end.
Yeah, I don't have any problem, but it is a very important question, being a teacher of philosophy.
Okay, ma'am. Then, ma'am, you can go forward. You can ask the question, ma'am.
Okay. Shivani ma'am, I would like to ask you, when we are saying that Indian philosophy doesn't have any scope of religion, and we are teaching to our students Indian religion also as well as Western religion also. So there is a diversity in different kinds of religion. My question is that, if we need a Western religion or Indian religion to make the understand each and every theory, like you were talking about mysticism, okay? And the second thing is that, does Western religion or Indian religion comes under a pseudoscience? Nowadays there is a very tedious word they are using, that Indian religion comes under a pseudoscience. Does it really comes under a pseudoscience?
Pseudoscience, I'm afraid why call it at all a science? It is not science. Religion is not science. So why call it a pseudoscience? That is my concern. And what is the need for religion to be a science? Let religion be a religion. And now your first part of the question, that what is the Indian and Western you were asking. Indian religion, we have elements of religion in India, no doubt, when we talk of Sagun Brahma. Now, as students of philosophy, what should interest us more is that to talk of Sagun Brahma or to talk of Sagun Ishwar, or let's say God, is not philosophically enriching. It is more like, having Krishna, having Ram in front of us, and we depend on them for our some purpose. But there is a purposeless entity already existing in our texts and philosophical deliberations, in intellectual insights, in Upanishads. So, as students of philosophy, our primary focus should be in those insights than religious, aspects of Indian culture and tradition. That would be my submission.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shivani, ma'am. Now,
Stanza.